Because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button, and the subscribe, and the post notification button.
Whether you like it or not, Frieren is considered the greatest anime of all time, depending on which websites you go to. This is something that's resulted in this anime kind of being perceived in a certain way, and I spoke about this before. But after watching season 2, it might be crazy to think that this anime might actually have a better season than the so-called greatest season of all time. Because season 2 is actually, in my opinion, better than season 1, and it's less episodes. And it's because of two things that I noted about this season. Now, before I begin talking about these two things that are really extremely special, I need to tell you the premise. It's a story about an elf. There you go. Anyway, the first thing about this anime that I noted in terms of season 2 that make it special is how it approaches the past. Now, I'm sure for a lot of people, that's not really surprising because season 2 basically just showed us a bunch of that stuff. Because within the first season, from my analysis, I was like, okay, she basically is taking us through the stories of her friends, her party, at the time who went on to beat the Demon King. Cool. So every time when she has moments, she remembers them. That's not a problem, it's fine. In some sense, it's a really good anime to analyze your view of the past, letting go of feelings and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why I understand why season 1 is special. But season 2 is something that corrected my view of this. It comes from episode 2 of season 2. Now, basically what happens is that within episode 2, they come across a statue of a great hero. They were kind of given a task to clean the statue in exchange for some weird stuff. You know how it is in the story. In between this, Frieren kind of tells them the story of this hero, and the episode ends, and that's pretty much it. There's other stuff in there, but that was pretty much it. It was a recap of how this dude became this hero. But for some reason, I left that episode really sad. I thought to myself, maybe it's the ending music. That's why I'm like emotional. The ending music's just amazing, so it gets me in my feels. Maybe that's why. But I couldn't shake that feeling for some reason, and I decided later onwards that I would actually watch the episode again. And it hit me. Before, I had this sort of view about Frieren where it's like, she's always going to talk back to the past in terms of things that relate to her friends. It's always going to relate to her friends. The story didn't. It did in a little aspect, but it was greater than that. Because in this episode, she's giving us information that not a lot of people, if at all, know this. Because the hero had actually approached her and told her that he could see into the future. In fact, he also tells her some information to tell Himmel. But the thing about this is that he knew he was going to go into a battle with these demons and lose his life. But he just doesn't have any lack of resolve, and he knows that he's still gonna go there, which is really tremendous because to a certain degree, he's really highlighted within his story for being a person who went there and fought. That's relatively what most people know. And in terms of the song and the music, and you see the children kind of just listening to his old tales and music in a sense, it's cute. But when you pause for a moment, and I think that's where the sadness for me came from, you realize that for the children and for a lot of the people there, they do not know the full story. Because if they knew that he knew some of the things that were coming, it would make him even more of a greater person than he already is. But they don't know. But also, even for the youth, they don't even really care too much. He's just a figure. And for me, this really hurts a lot because as humans, we're surrounded by so many great figures in terms of just seeing maybe documentaries or maybe statues or buildings or monuments or things like that within where we come from. But we don't really care too much. Like, you just note it and like, oh, okay, cool, oh, thank you, and you keep on moving. But it kind of in that moment really hit because those kids don't understand what this guy did. In fact, you think to yourself that, man, if they knew he did all of this, they should all remember him. But the truth is, they're not going to. That's the beauty about Frieren in a sense about her. She's kind of living an immortal life, but she's not immortal. She lives long enough to see boys turn into just old dudes. But also in a sense, she's going to watch generations pass by and the stories of some of these great people be forgotten or mistold or seen in another way. For those who are old enough, they might remember the story and kind of just revere that person in a different light. But for the young generation, they don't. And that glimmer and that sort of appreciation is not the same. This is when I saw something about this this anime that really hit different. Because in season 1, I thought that she only just remembers the people who are close to her. In this season, there's a lot of stories about other characters where you learn the connection about certain things, where you learn the story of the creation and what went into these things that some of us take for granted or just see as normal. That hurt, because then it really emphasizes the importance of people like Frieren who can really remind people of the past. And all of a sudden you find yourself as an audience member really clinging on to the past and wanting to remember people and honor them and really appreciate them because you understand some of the things that the world didn't know that they did. But then it goes even deeper. This is the second point, the emotional aspect of this anime. Because later onwards within the anime, I was ready to make a video about just how beautifully it remembers people. It said, nah, chill bruh, we got more. Later onwards, we learn a story about I might be badly saying his name, but this dude called Gyanu or something like that. But I'll show you a picture. Basically sent to a town where he comes from there. Demons have been there, they ravaged this place. He comes there to basically clean up. Now, as he's walking there, you don't know that he came from there initially, but you're like, oh, he's just sent on a job. He comes across a dude who's in rubble. The guy sees him. Now, this guy's lost a lot of blood. He looks like he's in a bad place. He looks like he's gonna lose his life. And he says his name. And now in my mind as an audience member, I'm like, oh, he might be concussed. He might not know this is someone else. And this guy's just playing into a role like, yes, it is me. I'm here to protect you, no problem. But anyway, he picks him up, comforts him, lets him know that, no, you're safe now. You're gonna go meet the other villagers. You're gonna get help. You'll be totally fine. And as they're walking, you eventually learn that they're going to a church, which is a little weird, but maybe that's where another mage is, which there is. But you think to yourself, okay, that's where this person's gonna get help. But along the journey, you realize that he's lost a lot of blood. At some point, he starts to slump. And you think to yourself, okay, maybe he's lost consciousness, only to realize that when they get to the church and you see what's within the church, it's people who have lost their lives. And you realize that the person who was behind his back had lost his life. You think to yourself, damn, that was sad, but there are things in there and we'll talk about them a bit later. But to make a long story short in some sense, they then, while they're within the church, Frieren and her crew approach, they kind of get into a little mistaken tussle. Frieren then tells him, hey, your magic just had so much bloodlust in it. He's like, oh, my bad, whatever. He seems like a dark dude. They eventually fight a dude called Revolte, and this is a person who not only just destroyed this town, but also he unalived this individual's partner. And ultimately a lot of things happen. But by the end of the fight, you learn so many things looking back. What we learned is that initially, this person does come from this town, but also he's a good person. He's not as dark as what he's presenting himself as. He cares. In fact, it's one of the reasons why he'll get hurt in the fight. But he's a person who just feels like bad people get to live a bit longer while the good ones always lose their lives. He's kind of pessimistic and he's a bit down because of what's been happening. But then if we analyze the episodes backwards, it's amazing storytelling but emotional expression. There's a moment where he's carrying the dude, like I said, where he starts to slump. What you'll notice is that he holds his friend's thigh really hard. He grips it and it's noted. And what you realize is that it's because he was angry. He still seems very stoic, but he was an angry man. He was so upset because of what he saw and what happened to his town, but he looked as if he didn't really care. His emotions were there for you, but he never told you them. Then also later onwards, with what Frieren said in terms of his magic, that it has so much bloodlust, it's another indicator of his anger, but he's not saying anything. He's just subtly revealing his emotions. And as an audience member, I looked at that and thought to myself, what a beautiful way of actually expressing and indicating emotions without saying too much. And that is amazing to me. This entire season has moments like this, and you start to realize the artistry in body language that this anime likes to tinker with and play with, and kind of just allow you to read subtle things and learn about characters without saying too much, which I love. But then also it didn't end there. The other thing that should be noted about this season that actually really hits home, but I guess it applies to number 2 in a sense, with the emotions, is the goodbyes. This anime has this ability of kind of really not saying much, and I guess that's why 2 and 3 link. All of these characters are thankful. It's not as if at the end of the fight Gan just ran to Stark and just told him everything and cried and everything. No, he just has a moment, he thanks them, and he's on his way. And the thing about this is that as you're watching this, you're thinking to yourself, man, they might never see each other again, or they might lose their lives or whatever, but this is the life that they live. And for some reason as a person, you're thinking to yourself, please just say more, just tell each other how you guys feel. But that's kind of the truth of the world. Most times people don't tell each other how they really feel. Like they might be sad, but they'll say something and then just be gone. This is how also this anime toys with your emotions about saying goodbye and hello. The thing that you'll notice when every time you see someone and then you have to leave them is the sad realization within this anime that you might never see them again. The thing about this is that it kind of hurts because for some reason, as a person who maybe would analyze Frieren, you then kind of become like Frieren. You want to be stuck in the past, you want to say everything, you want to do almost everything that we kind of saw Frieren wanted to do. Frieren has things that she wants to say that she never said, people that she wanted to see but never saw. She lives in the past all the time. Next minute, that's you. You keep looking at these situations like, please say this, or please go here, or please just communicate more. It becomes this thing where you almost cling to these people in a sense because this anime has this great way of making you feel like this is a real journey. You might never see these people again, or you hope to. And for me, that is spectacular. And one of the reasons why I thought to myself, this season is shorter, it's just 10 episodes, but it might be more impactful and better than the first season because it's doing things that season 1 built on, but at a higher level. And that's something to really think about, which is why I wanted to share this and talk to people about this. Because at this point, let's just say, for example, season 1 is a great season. What is season 2? Let's just say that's also a great season. Now it's on a 2-season run of being great. This is something where you really need to think about this anime in being a legendary anime. Now I'm not going to say it's top 1 or whatever, I will see at the end. But at this point, Frieren has a solid run that can compete with any anime in terms of the first 2 seasons. And this is the real conversation because I feel like the second season is better than the first. But the first was already amazing. And that's saying something. And I'm not here to jump on the gun of saying this is the greatest, but I'm just talking to you as an anime fan that the run this anime is on is impeccable and it should be noted. Now, to be fair, there are negatives. Just think that the main weakness about this anime mainly is just that it's really good at setting up stories. And that sounds like a weird thing to say that's a negative, but like they'll lull you into thinking that you know what's gonna happen. You know that it's gonna be episodic, or they'll just help a lady clean a house. Then at the end of the episode, you're crying because you learned a story about this lady. This is this anime. You never really know what to expect, and its ability to be subtle with a lot of things is something that makes it really amazing, but also can lull you into believing it's episodic. It's like, whatever, until it hits you. That is its biggest weakness, but also it might be its greatest strength. And that's the only negative I have about this season, because then in terms of the animation is awesome. In fact, one of the things that I noted is the perspectives that they like to take within the season, top tier. If you guys remember that episode where Revolte arrives, there's this moment where the camera or like the screen's looking for him, like they go around and they're trying to look for him, almost like what you would do if someone's like, oh, he's coming, and you hear something and you're just like looking where, and he shows up. That scene was like really amazing. But then also from a perspective of Frieren just having this mana compass is what I call it, where they were looking for, I think, these dragons, and they were just walking around and they're kind of giving you a perspective of like Frieren looking at a hand, which was awesome. There's many times where it almost feels like you're stalking them. I won't lie, high key. Like there's moments where like they're far away and you're in the woods. It's got a vibe and it's funny and it's awesome, which I like. Then in terms of the music and the OST is amazing. It's fun because the opening music always starts first, but it's like fun and it's got this vibe. Then the ending music makes you feel emotional, but the music within the episodes itself just fit the vibe, they fit the era. It's just amazing, but they never like force the music on you. It just feels natural. And as such, that's just a good example of good execution, good camera work, if you can say camera work, good animation, and just amazing storytelling. And those are the 3 things that I really look for in terms of an anime to a certain degree. Because mind you, again, this is the so-called greatest anime of all time, so its expectations are really high. But the fact that it's always able to take a 1-up on itself is really amazing. So I hope I was able to tell you at least 2 to 3 things as to why I think possibly the greatest anime of all time might have just 1-upped itself with the second season, in my opinion.